Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for checking out my channel. My name is Shane Walls and I make my living as a fine art nature photographer who truly depends on his tool watches when I'm out in the field, whether it be timing my hikes or timing my exposures. Tool watches have become an intricate tool in my photography process, and I feature my watches on this channel as part of my amateur watch collecting journey. On this episode, I'm going to talk about the rumors going around that the Rolex Explorer II might be soon discontinued. This is an important topic for me because my Rolex Explorer II is my favorite watch, a beloved watch by me. These rumors of the Rolex Explorer II being discontinued started about 3 or 4 years ago when the 50th anniversary of the Explorer II was debuted. Everyone was a little bit disappointed as Rolex is known for, on these big mile markers, to do something special in that collection of that watch or that watch's look or something special to it. Rolex did little to nothing for the Rolex Explorer II's 50th anniversary. Yes, they did add a new movement to it, a killer, amazing movement, but it's just the movement moved over for the GMT Master 2. And there was a few little things Rolex did for the appearance of the watch, but nothing like they've done in their other watches. Now, looking at this, I didn't really pay much attention to it at the time because this was in the, let's say, the lowest time of COVID, maybe the most serious time of COVID, so I can understand if they skipped it. They have before, Rolex has before, they'll do it a year early or a year late on their special models, their special anniversaries. But now it's 3 years past and the Rolex Explorer II, nothing has happened or even talks of happening. Now, on that note, diving even deeper into it, and I'm going to take this from the idea, which a lot of people are talking about, I happen to personally believe this as well, that Rolex is starting to kind of switch its MO from tool watch luxury to kind of luxury in a way. And I know there's a better educated, more educated way of saying that, but that's just how I kind of see it. They're looking more towards, being Patek Philippe, AP, VC, kind of the higher echelon of watchmaking. And this has been happening slowly over the last couple of years. You're starting to see it now with more precious metal watches being added, as well as case backs, display backs on the watch. Rolex before has never done that because they're just making a tough tool watch. They didn't care too much about the refinement of the watch. You didn't need to see it. You knew it was there. You knew it was an excellent movement. But with that added to it, a lot of people, me as well, think Rolex is moving more towards a jewelry, high-end luxury watch piece. And back to the Explorer II. They didn't do anything for the 50th anniversary. It's one of the only models besides, I'll get it here in a second, the Air King, that doesn't have a precious metal option. Even the Rolex original Explorer now has that precious metal option, which I think is very kind of interesting that they put precious metal on that. Staying on the Rolex Explorer original, they now have moved that up to 40 millimeters. They discontinued a 39 millimeter version a few years ago. The Rolex Explorer original usually comes in just 36 millimeter. Now they bumped it up to 40 because 39 millimeter wasn't quite big enough. And now 40, in my mind, is edging a little closer to the size of the Explorer II, which is 42 millimeter. I find that kind of interesting. Now with the original Explorer being 40 millimeter, that kind of fits into or even takes over that niche where the Explorer II used to sit, as well as rumors of a polar dial counterpart. A lot of the speculation is on the heels of the very popular Milgauss Rolex model being discontinued, which I feel the Rolex Explorer II is following a lot of trends that the Milgauss had before it was discontinued. Want to breathe some new life into your home or office? Why not do it with some fine art nature photography? Through my exclusive fine art photography, I celebrate the beauty and grandeur of nature, but also the solitude and peace that I feel when I'm outdoors. Limited to only 18 prints per image, I use the best possible cameras when capturing that perfect moment in time, allowing for amazing image quality on any scale. Industry-leading printers with top quality materials to create these nature scenes as if you were there witnessing them for yourself. Check out my website for more information on these award-winning photographs. The Milgauss's main function became obsolete. It being extremely anti-magnetic, back in the day it was great, but now every watch is probably actually better with the new technology than the Milgauss ever was. As well as the Milgauss, it was a little silly with the lightning bolt, the green sapphire, given I think it was very cool looking, I still kind of want one, but it was a little silly. And I see the Rolex Explorer II in the same way. Its main function is obsolete. I mean, you don't really need to go into caves anymore with a somewhat luxury watch. As well as, I think the Explorer II is a little silly in a way. This big dial with this orange hand. I know the orange hand's a throwback, but I'm seeing it the same way as the Milgauss, that orange lightning bolt. There's so many similarities to these two watches that it just really pushes me to think the Explorer II, its days are numbered, sadly. The Milgauss never really updated. It was still a very popular watch. When I was first dipping my toe into the Rolex lake, it was going to be harder for me to get a Milgauss than it was a Rolex Explorer II. So the Milgauss was discontinued, and they still had a long waiting list for that watch. So a lot of those naysayers, not so much naysayers, but people indicating that Rolex would never discontinue a watch with a wait list, it's been done before in the way of the Milgauss. Now taking a step back here, back to the movement. The 3285 is both in the GMT Master 2 and the Rolex Explorer 2. Now just thinking at it from a business perspective, why would you want to use that movement on a very less popular watch? The Explorer 2 is far less popular than the GMT model. They're both GMTs, so Rolex there already has two GMT watches. Is that needed? Especially with the GMT Master 2 being so popular, having precious metal options, having all these options, higher end luxury options. Why not use that movement to create more GMT Master 2s? Now that's just me speculating, but the more I think about it and the more I look at it, the Explorer 2 is just a little out of place in the Rolex lineup in their watch collection. And with the direction Rolex is going, I think you're going to see a lot more of the 1908 models, more precious metals. And with that direction, is there really a need for what I consider really the last true tool watch, the Rolex Explorer II? Does Rolex need something in their catalog that's just basically only a tool watch without precious metal options, without really any signs of luxury, so to speak? I think the Rolex Explorer II is just a down, dirty, great tool watch. That's the main reason why I got it. But Rolex, again, the direction they're heading more towards AP, Patek Philippe, high-end luxury brands, is there room in the catalog for a tool watch? Maybe. I mean, you can still argue that the Submariner, the GMT Master 2, you can still argue those are tool watches. I mean, they are, but they aren't. With the direction that Rolex is moving, they're offering a lot of options for their watches now. You know, metals, precious metals, color a dial, different kind of bracelets, bezel color. Some of these watches have over 20 options on them. All those different things. But go hit on their website, Rolex's website, configure the Explorer 2, you have one option. Do you want a white dial? Do you want a black dial? Now, don't put too much stock into this, but I mentioned this, I think about a year ago on another video. When I was over in Europe for a gallery event, I met up with one of my collectors. We went and had drinks after the show, and he's pretty high up in Rolex. And I jokingly said to him, oh, maybe one day I would like to get a black dial Explorer 2. And again, a few drinks into it, he kind of laughed and said, oh, if they're still around. Now, he could have just been joking around. I don't know. Yeah, grasping at straws maybe here, but that did happen. So that was a little interesting. Because let's not forget, Rolex started as a tool watch company. That's how all their press, everything, their watches were made to be tools. I mean, Everest, swimming the English Channel, all that kind of stuff. That's how this watch company became so big. Mostly because of the advertising, but they made a really killer watch. And they still do. They're taking that down and dirty approach of tool watches and adding luxury to that. And that's why I think Rolex is so cool. You don't see any other real watch brands doing it as well as Rolex. Rolex movements are some of the best in the world. They're not as refined, they're not as pretty as some of the, the higher echelons of watchmaking, but they get the job done. They're more accurate than, VCs, the APs, all of those, the Patek Philippe's, they're a lot more accurate than those. They're just, again, not as pretty. That all being said, what sells now? True tool watches or high-end luxury? It seems to be going, and just with our society in general, I don't want to get too philosophical here, but with our society in general, it just seems like luxury goods looking pretty on the wrist is more important than down and dirty tool watch. And as a business, I mean, whatever their prerogative is, it just seems like they're going more towards that luxury idea, that luxury aspect of watchmaking. Yeah, I really don't know what to think, but based on the evidence and just going through their website, they're not really updating the pictures of the Explorer II. I could be missing it. I'm not really that often on social media. They don't seem to be pushing it like they are the other models. Don't take too much on that. Again, I'm not really on social media all that often. But I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think, no, it is. It's a bad thing because I think this is one of the best watches of all time. I love my Explorer II. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think I'm just reading too much into this? Do you think there is a possibility of it being discontinued? Now, I don't think it will be discontinued this year or maybe next, but I think it is near soon in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Cheers.